Welcome back to Primetime News and a special welcome once again to our viewers on onespotmedia.com. Up first this evening, water has been restored. That's the word from Minister of Labour and Social Security Karl Samuda, who was addressing Parliament late this afternoon. Now, his comments come following today's industrial action by more than 2,000 National Water Commission employees. More than 500,000 customers have been without service. The workers are protesting the slow pace of their salary review. According to the minister, a meeting was called with the NWC's management and unions today to resolve the issue. However, he says it will require more discussions, which not only affects the Labour Ministry but the Finance Ministry.
I understand that the lock-off continues until those further discussions are had, or is it some interim arrangement pending the resolution of the issues for which you spoke?
The fact of the matter is that this could not be continued on a protracted basis, and I'm very pleased to advise that in great part, a great degree, water has been restored. We will, during the course of the negotiations, ensure that everything is done to have that flow of water on a continuous basis while we discuss the matter.
Now, despite the assertion from Minister Samuda, hundreds of persons throughout the country say they remain without water. Up to news time, many persons have taken to social media to vent their frustration. Several callers to Radio Jamaica's Beyond the Headlines have also been complaining. Now, our news center understands that the strike has so far cost the National Water Commission more than $100 million. NWC President Mark Barnett told our news center that the figure comprises mainly billing losses. So how did things unfold in parishes across the island? Here's Krista Campbell with that story.
National Water Commission NWC workers restive and festive. In St. Thomas, several employees outside the NWC parish office vibing as cool melodies from popular reggae hits play in the background. Over in St. James, workers enjoy a game of dominoes. In St. Catherine, NWC employees relaxing in seats under the shade of umbrellas. Across the island, padlocked gates, closed shutters, and placards make their messages clear.
The level of work that is done by us as public sector workers, and when you check the scale, the pay scale with the private sector workers, they're getting way more. We don't have to get the same as them, but we want it to be close, because it is only fair to us.
But some customers argue the strike was not fair to those already struggling to get regular water supply and who pay high bills.
3 weeks, I'm going to pay me 10,000 and not even enough for water for 3 weeks straight. We don't get no water, and then the other week, then send it, the other week, then not send no. They can't work, so. Them want money, we want water too.
Them been practicing for the strike for weeks though, mostly because we never have no water.
People are fed up of water commission. They're not actually doing their work. People should be striking against water commission.
And with low or no water in some areas,
we have a shortage of water at all times. We are experiencing drought in St. Thomas. What about our farmers to get water to water the crop to feed us? We are into a dangerous crisis right now.
Now, NWC customers who have water tanks at their homes and businesses have survived the day's strike, but others are worried about how they'll get by if it continues.
You're going on strike, then if we turn off the water. So we can't do without it.
From morning, you go to school, it's a lucky thing we wake early and get all a bucket. As some go baby man get to go to school.
As fast as I hear the news and run to catch up, it's gone.
You never catch any?
Only one pan.
Still, there's been some support for Tuesday's industrial action.
They need their money, they must get them pay. Yes, them work for it, them deserve it. Plus, one of my for water go down to, yeah?
Cost of living is gone up. So you have to understand, say, everything gone up. We need compensation to match the cost of living.
Krista Campbell, TVJNews.
Now, the industrial action affected homes, businesses, schools, police stations, among others. Jamila Maitland was in the corporate area and filed this report.
Business operators are feeling the impact of Tuesday morning strike by employees of the National Water Commission. For manager at LP Azar in Crossroads, Andrew Azar, the company has a reliable water storage, but it may not be sufficient if the protest continues.
Over 150 employees here, and whereas you can get along a little bit without light, you cannot get along without water. We have limited water tank capabilities, but when that is drained, you have to refill. And if there's nothing to refill, then you have no water. You have no water, you can't flush toilets, you can't do normal everyday activities. So I just hope they sort it out.
The company is one of many in Crossroads weighing their business contingency plans because of the industrial action. The protest caused bumper-to-bumper traffic on Marasco Road. Principal of the Michael Teachers College, Dr. Osborne Pinnock, says he's relieved that not all students are at school, which lessened the demand for water on campus.
We're on examination, but we are mainly online, so most of our students are off campus, which makes it much easier because there's less consumption at this time of the year. And therefore, again, our storage can last a little bit longer than when the students would be on campus.
Meanwhile, administrators at the Wolmer's Boys High School say they were not affected by the strike, as the school usually has water disruption issues. But for students at St. Hugh's High, classes ended earlier than usual.
Students at the St. Hugh's High School had an early day after school was dismissed due to the water crisis. Now, the school principal who we spoke to say business is fairly as usual. However, because of the shortage in water supply, students had to be sent home.
The students revealed that they were instructed that learning will continue online for the rest of the week. Restaurants and other food establishments also had the same issue: no running water. At the Crossroads police station, no water. And with no sign of an end to the protests, business are bracing for more disruptions.
I think they should at least come to the table with the government, and because in their own words, water is life. So they need to get this thing sorted out as soon as possible.
Jamila Maitland, TVJ News.
Now I'm joined in studio by our legal correspondent, Dion Jackson Miller, where we will discuss what does the law say about essential workers taking industrial action. But before that, Dion, you spoke with the president of the NWC, Mark Barnett. Of course, NWC has been locked in a meeting with the unions as well as representatives from the Labour Ministry. What did he tell you?
Yes, in fact, he stepped out of that meeting to talk to us on Beyond the Headlines on Radio Jamaica just before 6 o'clock. He said he was optimistic that there will be some kind of agreement reached some point tonight that will allow the workers to remain to return to work and for water to be restored. Up to the point at which he spoke to us, though, he said that there still was the widespread outage when it came to water. We also spoke to, well, I should say we opened our lines and asked Jamaicans all over the country to message us and say if they had got back water yet. And people from all over have been saying no, they still do not have water.
All right, so back to this substantive issue at hand. What does the law say about essential workers like those from the NWC taking industrial action, especially in this scale?
Yeah, well, first of all, the relevant law is what we call the LRIDA, and I think we have up that particular slide. We have a slide with that. That's the Labor Relations and Industrial Disputes Act. Now, there's a schedule to the LRIDA that outlines who are essential workers. We can just bring up the next slide just to show a couple of them. And if you look at it, you will see that water, well, when it comes up, water services are right at the top of the list. That list is not complete. There are other services as well, but water is included in the list of essential service workers. Now, it's not that the law says that they can't strike, but there is a very particular regimen that has to be put in place. And when you look at the law, it's clear that the intent is to exhaust all possible remedies before any kind of industrial action is taken. So what it says is that one of the parties may refer a dispute to the minister, and the minister, now the Labour Minister, has 10 days. Within that 10 days, he either has to direct the parties to try to come to some agreement, or he refers the matter to the Industrial Disputes Tribunal. And an action, industrial action involving essential workers will be deemed unlawful if it
occurs under any other circumstances except two. One, in a situation in which a matter has been sent to the minister and the minister has done nothing, or the matter has gone to the IDT and the IDT Industrial Disputes Tribunal has not made an award, has not made a decision in the particular situation. I spoke to Helene Davis-White of Jalgo earlier, and she did admit that all the steps had not been followed, but she said the workers are frustrated, the workers are fed up. This has been going on for over a decade.
Okay, so what is likely to happen now? I mean, can the workers be forced to go back to work?
Well, it's interesting. As I mentioned, it's likely, from what we heard from Mark Barnett, that they are going to come to some kind of resolution at the Ministry of Labour. If not, the minister has the power to refer the matter to the Industrial Disputes Tribunal. As to what can happen, I'll take you back in time and mention two instances. So there was an instance, for instance, I think we have the slide, in 2000 when the junior doctors sent a notice to the Ministry of Health saying they were going to take industrial action. It was sent to the IDT. IDT ordered them back to work. They ignored it. The Supreme Court gave an order ordering them back to work, and they ignored that as well. So they were brought before the Supreme Court for contempt of court. And then Chief Justice Lindsay Wolf said, well, they've made an apology. He doesn't believe the apology is sincere. He thinks they're trying to avoid punishment. And what he did was to make an order that each of the doctors involved had to do 200 hours of community service. We've also seen in 2010, then Labour Minister Pernell Charles, at the time, had gone to court to get an injunction to try to force nurses back to work.
Okay.
When that dispute had been dragging on for some time.
Okay, thank you so much, Dion. So much to talk about, so little
Always.
time. Thank you so much for joining us.